between water and poison. Learn to feed without hurting yourself. I don't care to remember, I don't want to forget every freckle on your hand or your forehead. Corners have curved, love's on the line. I'm learning to grow in dim places. I've gotten stuck on the hour. Time moves different for everyone. Ascertain between water and poison. Learn to feed without hurting myself.
Storytelling. In Ireland, we are famous for our storytellers, our stories, the rich way in which we invite people into our world. It's how we understand things, it's how we explain, it's how we experience. Our stories are proof that we exist. They're proof that we have lived and tried and failed and continued living. We share our stories in pubs and in living rooms, in restaurants and in bars, over dinner tables and breakfast tables. Each of us has a story. Everything we touch or taste or smell or feel has a story. But how often do we think about these stories? How often do you think about the story behind the food that you eat? How often do you think about food? For many of us, food is a celebration. For some of us, food is a chore. But for many people, particularly people in this room, food is a livelihood. Today, we are here to celebrate those stories, to celebrate the people behind our food. In Ireland, we're famous for our food, for our meat, for our dairy, for our vegetables, but we all take it for granted. I was told a story recently, and now I haven't verified this, so someone do fact check me in this. But apparently in America, our dairy is so popular, or butter specifically, that they sell small sticks of butter that you can eat like chocolate bars. Genuinely, I did look it up. That seems to be a real thing. Apparently people are standing on the side of streets eating Irish butter. But we take it for granted. Because of course we do. We're Irish. We're not good at celebrating the things that we do. And we have so much to celebrate. And that's what today is about. It's about celebrating. It's about celebrating people and their stories and their experiences and the hard work that they do to get food onto our plates. We have 3 generations of Irish farmers, 3 incredible women who work day in and day out to make sure that we eat. Each of these women is going to stand and tell you their stories. As you will have all seen, that there is a box on your chair. In this box contains food. There are 3 pieces of food. You will be prompted to eat each piece of food as the farmers tell their story. So I invite you to take a moment to get the food in your lap, to get it ready. But please don't eat it all at once. Each farmer will tell you when the time is right. So, our first farmer today is an incredible farmer called Sophie Bell. Sophie Bell is from County Cavan and farms just outside Virginia in Cavan. Sophie, as well as being a full-time farmer, works full-time, a full-time job on top of farming, and is a social media advocate for young women in farming. She shares her story online to inspire other women to do what she does. So, without further ado, can we give a warm welcome to the incredible Sophie Bell.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sophie Bell. and I'm a young farmer from County Cavan. I'm farming on 57 acres, and I'm also working full-time off-farm. I've just completed my master's, and I'm also an advocate on social media for agriculture and women farmers. Originally, the farm was a beef farm. However, in March 2022, I decided to go into a farm partnership with my father, where I would start contract rearing dairy heifers. This meant that I was rearing the next generation for another farmer. This also took me away from the commodity pricing that was unviable and unfeasible for my small farm. The box in front of you, you'll find 3 pieces of food. I encourage you to take the yogurt whilst I'm sharing my story with you. Before my time, my granddad was a dairy farmer. And back then, there was no technology, so everything had to be done by hand. This was a very physical job. It took a lot of manual labor, and it meant working from dawn until dusk in order to get his item of dairy to the local market. My granddad died when my father was aged 4. And from that time, the farm gradually became a beef farm. Unfortunately, beef farming was very competitive, and it was very hard as a small farm to compete with the larger farmers. So my dad had to work off farm full time. When I was 15 or 16, I gathered a larger interest in the farm, and I started becoming a lot more involved. Growing up, my family was all working full time, aside from the farm, which meant that time together as a family was really cherished. My mom is an incredibly hardworking woman. She was working full-time alongside my dad. However, as well as that, she was also raising a family, looking after a household, and she was taking on all of the caretaking responsibilities. As well as that, she was also looking after the farm. Often, this work is taken for granted. A lot of women carry out a lot of unseen labor, and this has gone on for generations, and it's often uncelebrated. My mom took it all in her stride. Day to day, she was calving cows on her own, the odd time with the help of the neighbours. I learned a lot from my mom, and I carry that with me every day. In school, I was not a very confident girl. I didn't have much self-esteem, and I didn't really see myself going anywhere. However, my ag science teacher recognized my capabilities. At the time, I was in my Leaving Cert year, and I'd taken on the farm because my dad had emigrated for work. At this time, I was also navigating life as a teenager, which is quite hard. I was learning about myself. I was seeing who I wanted to be, navigating friendships, and also growing as a person. However, I was also taking on the responsibility of the farm. Thankfully, my ag science teacher recognized my passion, and he knew that I wanted to apply for Harper Adams University. However, the application process is very difficult, and I didn't have the confidence to pursue it. He spent his lunch breaks with me doing the application form and preparing my interview and personal statement. And I wouldn't have achieved or pursued my bachelor's degree only for him. I then went on to Harper Adams University, and I gained a lot of practical experience in the college itself, which was great. However, I also wanted to learn, and I also needed to make money. So the first dairy farm that I went to I was looking for guidance, I was looking to learn, and I was also looking for leadership. However, when I passed on any new ideas or things that I was learning, the farmer laughed. And thankfully, I left the very same day. But I didn't give up. I then went on to the next lady, and she had her hands full. She had 3 young children who were quite a handful, and she also had a large number of animals. However, she didn't need to see my CV. She looked at who I was as a person. She's seen my work ethic, and she's seen my interest, and that was enough for her. I learned so much from her, and I really think she set the foundation for my career. Without her, I probably wouldn't have started my social media page, which has now turned into a really successful following. Social media has been a huge moment for me. It's created community, it's created a network, something that is quite hard to achieve in farming due to the isolation we can experience. And it has created some full circle moments. I returned back to my secondary school where I had to speak to a young circle of girls in TY who wanted to pursue a career in agriculture. At that time, I couldn't believe that 20 girls in a small knit school wanted to pursue a career in farming in comparison to when I was there. However, the thing that meant the most to me when I was leaving was when a young girl came up to me afterwards and said, "When I'm older, I want to be just like you." Farming hasn't always been easy. I have had some moments as a woman which were quite difficult. And these may be little things, however, they all add up. For example, I was attending an event a few weeks ago, and they addressed the room as, "Who here is a dairy man? Who here is a beef man? And who here is a calf man?" And I heard a whisper behind me say, "I can't put my hand up," because she was a woman. There's also some documents I've had to edit because the gender was only he on the contract itself. And also I've had a letter about planning permission addressed to Sophie Bell. However, the letter itself said, "Dear Sir." It's things like these that add up, and it can be very mentally exhausting. Throughout my time in agriculture, it's been very much a journey, and without various people in my life, I wouldn't be here doing this talk. I believe that we can all pursue our passions, and it's important to make sure that we bring along the community with us. And I wouldn't be here today only for the women that have helped me along. Thank you so much for allowing me to share my story.
Thank you, Sophie. Community, whether you are a lone wolf or the life of the party, we are all part of a community. We are all touched by community in some way or another. Each of us, just by being here today, by sitting here and sharing in these stories and tasting this food, we are part of a community. And in times where this is becoming increasingly more rare, it's really important to recognize just how magical these things are. Our farmers today, this will be the first time that they've ever spoken in front of this many people. And they've shared and will continue to share their stories so generously. In Ireland, 13% of farms are owned by women. That is less than 1 in 7. It is really important that we take the time to listen to these voices. When Maynooth University looked into why only 13% of women in Ireland are farmers, they were seeing what the barriers were for women. And while doing this, they recognized that women have a huge part to play on family farms. They estimated that about 30 to 40% of the labor on family farms is done by women, and very often is not gone acknowledged. Today, we are here to celebrate these stories, to celebrate these women, to celebrate their food, to celebrate the hard work they do. That's what Food Tank does. Food Tank is a space and a company that shares and celebrates in these stories, that highlights the stories of people working in our food systems. Our next farmer, Karina Roseingrave. Carina is based on Burren Farm in Crusheen, just outside Crusheen, County Clare. She'll kill me for getting that wrong. Just outside Crusheen, County Clare. She works on a diverse farm with her brother, where she works with dairy, milk, beef, so many other things, while raising 2 young children. So if you could all please give a warm welcome to our next farmer, Karina Roseingrave.
Hi, my name is Karina Roseingrave and I'm a full-time farmer in our family-run farm in the foothills of the Burren in Crusheen in County Clare. I farm alongside my brother Jerry in a formal farm partnership. We farm a mixed enterprise of dairy, beef, eggs, alongside a Limousin and Shirley pedigree herd. We farm on a 350-acre block. And while I have you now, I would like to give you the opportunity to taste the smoked cheese that has come from produce of our farm, milk from our cows, and eggs from our hens. Our cows and hens get to roam the lush green grass of Burren Farm. It's very important to us to keep food and nature connected. So while you enjoy the piece of food, I hope it brings you back to our farm. Our farm was family run and has been for generations. It has always been a suckler farm. In 2017, a block of land came available to buy that was adjacent to our home farm. In order to make the farm sustainable for both myself and my brother to work full-time, we had to diversify. So my brother, having travelled in New Zealand and gained experience on a dairy block, decided we would go into dairy farming. I, however, had never milked a cow, had never stood in a parlour, but I now enjoy every morning seeing the sunrise and the sunset while bringing in my cows for milking. In order to be dairy farmers, you have to get a contract. So we contacted Kerry Dairy Ireland, who we now supply our milk direct to. We're involved with the Evolve programme through Kerry Dairy Ireland for sustainability in Irish dairy farms. So it was through a lot of learning and nice and quickly how we learned to get into dairy. But something that we've always held on our farm is a motto my dad had. If you're going to do something, do it right. So we hold producing high quality milk, beef and eggs very central to everything we do on our farm. Over the years and from a very young age, we all worked on our farm at home, whether it was just standing in the gap, like many of you probably today have done on farms for neighbours. In 2002, my dad passed away and left my mum a widow of 5 young children under the age of 12. She held down a full-time job in Ennis Mart and in order to sustain an income that was steady in order to educate the 5 of us. My mother was an incredible hard worker. She never once complained about it, she just got on with it. My granny lived at home with us and she reared us. From a very young age, I can remember walking into Granny's garden where she grew potatoes, carrots, onions, you name it. We knew exactly where the food came from. I suppose it just was naturally shown to us. She kept her few hens in the backyard, so we used to fight over collecting the eggs. So every evening, Granny would put up fresh vegetables and food that came from her garden that was attended to with care, sown from a seed and then on our plate. It's that caring nature that has found me where I am today, with wanting to continue on her legacy. And Granny herself has left a legacy in Crusheen, because all my friends still talk about her famous mashed potato. So where we are is the connection between food, family, and nature. Every farmer out there gets up early in the morning, no matter what the weather is like. They have to attend to their cows, they have to milk them. They have to go out and collect the eggs, they have to see their goats get their crops. Everything is done with care. And yes, it does take time, and yes, it is busy. But what I want you to do today is to just slow down and think exactly how lucky we are to go to the supermarket and realise the care that is put in by every single farmer to get that product onto the shelf. It has, over time, I have learned to appreciate and slow down in my life too. But I have 2 small girls, CJ and Arlie, one being 6 and 4. And when you have kids, it does get you to ground yourself again and appreciate how lucky we are. And it is my passion to pass what I've learned from my mum and my granny onto the next generation of Irish farmers. Burnview Farm wouldn't be here only for the locals, the business people, and everyone else involved in farming. In 2020, my mum had recently recovered from cancer, and we wanted to give back to the community that helped her. So on the 1st of December, we decided to run a charity event for Sláinte an Clár, a Clare Cancer Research Centre that helped my mum. On the 1st of December, the idea was born, and we decided to halter one of our most prized possessions in our Shirley heifer, Snowdrop. Snowdrop went for sale on the 17th of December in Gart Mart. We had never halter trained a heifer before, but we did it. We raised over €6,000 for the charity and gave back to the community. The special story behind Snowdrop is the connections that you make in agriculture. The night before the sale, a man rang me from Donegal. He said, "I'm interested in buying the heifer. If I am the highest bidder, will you take the heifer home?" And we agreed. He sounded genuine at the time. So on the night, the highest bid came in online. We went into the office to Burren and Gartmart, and yes, it was the Donegal farmer. His name is Derek Glynn. To this day, I have never met Derek in person, but we're in contact every day about Snowdrop, about her calf, and everything. This is extremely unusual because usually you go to the mart, you sell your animal, it's like selling a car. So Jerry drove with Snowdrop up to Meath, and he met Jennifer, Derek's wife. To this day, we continue to share knowledge of agriculture, family life, and it has made an incredible bond between the Glynns and the Rosengraves. Which brings me to Christmas time, having the chats with Derek on the phone. And he said that snowdrop has brought nothing but luck to my yard, which is something amazing to hear. And it has brought luck to our yard. Since that sale in Gort, everyone encouraged us, why don't you sell bulls? So that is how our pedigree, Shirley and Limousine Herd, came about. Our farm, as you can see, is built on diversifying. And it is the only way in which farming in Ireland can succeed. But when your passion and your heart is there, you will make sure to make the farming work. Showing animals is something we hold very dear to us, because when a calf hits the ground, you bring that calf all the way up to maturity. And we now show our animals in all the local agricultural shows. And we pass on our talent to the next generation, because it gives me immense joy and pride when I see my two little daughters, CJ and Arlie, show their calf around the local show rings. So I suppose you can clearly see my passion is in agriculture, and I'm very lucky that I was surrounded by incredible women in my life, being my mum and my granny, and also in later years I have gained a lot of networks through agriculture and the Acorns community in Paulus Fitzsimons. And I want to pass on to the next generation of Irish dairy farmers and any agricultural sector. And it is my passion to give back and for people to appreciate where food comes from. Slán go fóill agus go n-éirí an bóthar leat.
Thank you very much, Karina. As you could tell from the two stories that you have already heard, none of us exist in a vacuum. We wouldn't be able to exist and continue living without the people around us. And it's very rare that we get the opportunity to celebrate those people, to celebrate the people that create our food. Some of you are from the agriculture industry, some of you are from the arts, and some of you are just a friend of a friend of a friend. But some of you might be sitting here today going, why? What is the point of us coming together and listening to these stories? It's always a valuable thing to listen to other people's stories. It's a beautiful way to learn, to understand, to see perspectives beyond our own. But in Ireland, we love telling stories about farmers. And my God, those stories are miserable. If I have to watch one more play, I'm not going to name any names because it might lose me jobs. If I have to see one more play in Ireland about a miserable farmer on an island that's definitely not the Aran Islands, but sounds kind of like the Aran Islands, about how depressing and miserable it is, about how much of a slog it is day in, day out, this isn't a true or modern reflection of what farming is in Ireland. As I said at the very beginning, we are famous for our food world over. And yet the stereotypes that we carry with it are of an old man alone on a farm. Well, that's just not the reality of it at all. We are an incredibly modern country. And that is why it's important that we hear stories from modern farmers, from farmers that are here and now and working on the land and working to improve the food that we eat. Our final farmer is an incredible farmer called Ailbhe Gerrard. Ailbhe farms just outside Nina in County Tipperary. She is on a diverse organic farm where she works incredibly hard to improve her farm, the life of the soil, the life of her animals. Ailbhe returned to farming later in her life, and I'd like to invite Ailbhe onto stage now to tell her story. Everyone give a warm welcome to Ailbhe.
Hello everyone, my name is Ailbhe Gerrard and I'm farming close to my family home outside Nina, County Tipperary. For those of you who haven't been there, let me bring you to the farm. It is the most beautiful piece of land. It starts at the top of a hill with an oak wood, and as we go down through the fields and hedges and lanes, down to the shores of Lough Derg, which is the sinuous, twisty lake which laps the shores of the farm. And in those fields, we have clever and courageous sheep. We have organic oats that go to your porridge. We have organic barley that goes to your whiskey and beer. And I also keep bees. Beekeeping is a really important part of the farm. And altogether, I've built it up over a number of years. I'm now farming just over 80 acres. And it was a childhood memory that brought me back to this particular farm. Because I grew up the second child of 7 siblings, which is a lot. And we grew up on a small holding. And we grew vegetables, and we worked hard. We grew vegetables, and we collected firewood, and we turned hay by hand. We had a couple of horses. We had hens. We cycled 7 miles to school and back every day. And we lived a very outdoor life. We ran wild in the fields. And from the lake, I learned the water from swimming and a bit of sailing. And from the horses and the hens, I learned the land and how to grow food. And then I went away, like so many of us, so many country people, leave the country because there isn't a place. And I went to the city, studied, and became a project manager for construction. But the memory of that place, the call of the Loch Derg, the Shannon, it kept coming back to my memory, particularly this particular piece of land that we used to walk through as children. It was the only farm that had a right of way through it. So a lot of local people would walk through this farm. And it stood in my memory as the most beautiful piece of land with the big skies and the trees and the fields and the lake. So I came back in 2010, and I was very glad to be back in Tipperary and looking to start farming. So I looked for a piece of land, and I thought, a little piece of land will do me, and I'll see how that works. But then I approached the people who owned this farm, which is now Brookfield, and I said, would you like to sell? And they said, yes, actually we would. And it was 65 acres to start with, and I was all in. It was full-time farming, or just say no to buying it. So I spent quite a long time looking at the ceiling, wondering what I had done. And it had been a barley growing farm. It had been leased for decades, so decade after decade it had just been for productivity, and then the barley was being sold for animal feed. So I thought, right, we're going to do something different. So away with me to Aberdeen for 3 years to study organic farming part-time. And in the meantime, I was learning my trade as a farmer, kept on the farm as it had been, and then as I learnt more about farming, and with the huge help of friends and neighbours and contractors, mentors, I changed the farm to converted it to organic and made it much more diverse. I brought in the native Irish black bee. I'm a beekeeper. And that brings us, because I know I've been holding out on you here, there is a bit of honey. There is a bit of honey in the last piece of food, which is a thyme and honey panna cotta. So that little taste of sweetness, that's the flavour. That's the flavour of my farm. And I do hope you enjoy it. So the farm became much more diverse. I brought in the sheep and really concentrated on the trees with broadleaf woodlands, planted several orchards. But right from the start, I really wanted to bring people in, inspired by the idea of bees, who are like the ultimate collaborators and community builders. So right from the first winter, we started inviting people in, and my parents were delighted because they were so glad I'd moved home. And then I was starting this kind of farm, which was about welcoming people to come and see how food is being produced. I started teaching agriculture, and then it really developed into a kind of an agri-education, creative agriculture space on the farm, which I really lent into. And primary production is it's a joy, it's a responsibility, and it's also this tension between really looking after the farm, making a habitat for the insects, for the foxes, the wild animals, but also making a livelihood. And it's a difficult tension, and a lot of farmers, we don't negotiate it all quite so well. And there's a kind of a rage in agriculture. It's very male. There's a kind of a rage because it's not all going quite so well economically with this commodity-driven export model that we have. And some people in my neighborhood were not so happy that I was doing this kind of organic farming. They didn't necessarily understand the public goods that my kind of farming provides, looking after water quality and soil. And also, we're not terribly happy I was bringing people in and welcoming people to the farm. So there were some confronting things that happened. One thing was I had a planning permission invalidated. The county council had been put under pressure to say that the road that led to my farm was private and not public. And it took months of digging through documents and talking to engineers until I found that in fact, this road had always been public since 1980s, and somebody had been persuaded to change the designation. Another thing that happened, which was quite intimidating, was that some badgers who live on my farm came out in 2022, 4 years ago to the day actually nearly, and found that somebody had invaded the farm, set snares, and I came out and found a dead badger and a dead fox. Now that's a really upsetting thing to happen. Less seriously, I was trying to get a reimbursement for a barn grant and uploading documents to the Department of Agriculture website, uploading the steel and the concrete certificates and all the invoices, and the one piece I had to upload suddenly was a marriage certificate. It's Valentine's weekend, so I feel I can tell you this. I'm not married. Yet. But the computer said no. I could go no further until I uploaded my marriage certificate. So eventually, in despair, I just wrote on a piece of paper, I'm not married, and uploaded it. So, despite all these difficulties, I had to dig in. It was more expensive than it might have been. It was costly in time and energy and trust for me looking around at wondering who would doing these kind of things. But what brought me through was friends, my family, who've been so supportive, the communities that I've been part of, the networks I've been part of. This pulls you through. It really does. And just like the bees, who have this amazing ability to produce sweetness out of practically the air, I, together with all the communities I've been working with, have pulled through. We now have a thriving farm. I've welcomed thousands of people, including people from Oris and Uachtaráin, ministers, and we're so proud of what we've achieved on this beautiful piece of land. And without all the people who've helped, it would not have been possible. So I do want to welcome you to come with me on this journey of what farming can be, a different kind of nature-centered farming. Please come visit. I've just come up with a book, which is coming out in May, and you're very welcome to buy it when it comes out. But do please come and visit. It's a very welcoming place on the shores of Lough Derg. And thank you to everyone for listening to the story.
Thank you very much, Ailbhe. Thank you for your incredible story.
I've been thinking about coffee. I've been waiting for rain. I keep hoping I'll feel keep thinking that nothing has changed, then suddenly it does. Lord knows how I've tried seeing the bright side all of my life, looking for answers. Lord knows how I've tried seeing the bright side all of my life, looking for I've been worshiping